Stand for pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unfog for a minute so I can read this. The rules of procedure adopted annually to ensure a productive meeting. The select board meetings are in the public, not of the public, meaning that the members of the public in attendance are entitled to the opportunity to comment, but the purpose of the meeting is for the board to be able to effectively and efficiently conduct the necessary business to govern the town. All questions and comments are to be directed to the chair, and the rules of procedure indicate that there will be 2 minutes allotted for comment from any single person on any single topic. The rules of procedure are posted in the town hall and available are online for anyone to review. Thank you. What do we got?
So, members in attendance, we have Bob Jones, Mike Beecher, Jessica Van Hort, Carrie Brown, and Rich Hewlett, and I am Kristen Towers, I'm the assistant to the board. We've got a whole bunch of people here and online, so friendly reminder, I think everybody here is signed in, everybody online. If you wouldn't mind changing your name to your name, so we could get you on the sign-in, that would be great. And friendly reminder that if you do speak this evening, please address the chair and introduce yourself before speaking. We have a couple of additions to the agenda. So the first is an executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body. And I put that at the end, Mike. I
Yes.
don't know what, okay.
That would be perfect.
And then 2 other additions within the facilities report. There's a request from the Pawlet Volunteer Highway Department, the Pawlet Volunteer Fire Department regarding the existing highway department's property. And then also Jessica had requested that we discuss potential plans or what the board has in mind for the new town garage. I figured those could be sort of in the same bundle during facilities. And I believe that's all that I had for additions. Anybody else?
Okay.
And the minutes that need approval are from the last meeting, which was December 26th of 2023.
I'll move that we approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Pre-requested. Harley?
I sent the select board members and Kristen 2 job descriptions, librarian assistant and interim librarian, that Adele is fulfilling the role of interim librarian. The most significant duties are the programming development and the financial management aspects of the library. There is a lot of overlap, and what she is not doing is, and she pointed out, is long-term planning and grants, which are significant duties. So I retract my request for $22.05, but trim it to $21. And I confirmed that when a new director is in place, that she reverts back to her current salary.
Anybody have any questions for Harley?
No, I don't think I do. I read over these as well, and I saw that, yeah, what is not currently being done by the assistant librarian is writing grants, evaluating staff and volunteers, and long-range planning. So those are the 3 aspects that would be done by a permanent a permanent director. And I think it makes sense, given that the additional work that Adele is doing now, but not the full work of a full-time library director, that her pay should be raised to somewhere in between what she was making before and what the full-time library director would make.
Okay.
Exactly where that falls, I don't really have an opinion.
Okay.
I'd move to approve that.
Somebody want to make that in the form of a motion that you just did? Okay. Do I have a second on that?
So what was that at? You said 21 was what was being requested now?
My understanding is she's doing her original job plus this new one minus a couple of tasks, correct?
There's a lot of overlap, but yeah, the additional tasks are the program development and the financial management.
So what's her experience with that, though? She have experience writing grants and doing all that financial part of it?
The grants she's not touching right now. The financial part, she, reporting to the treasurer of the board, all the expenses and passing along invoices and making sure invoices are getting paid. So she's keeping up with it, from my observation. And then the thing that has been surprising is the program development, which has been markedly increased recently. And that's, I would say, she's doing a good job.
Do we have a second on that, sir? On this motion? To move on Harley's proposal?
What was the adjusted?
So we don't have, the adjusted rate would be 21 and what?
21.
21 even, okay. Which would bring her up while she was filling in interim.
And your board is still all in agreement?
Yes.
So we've had the information presented to us and we've had a chance to review it. Do we have any questions why?
And you still want it retroactive, or no?
Yes, she started doing this on November 8th, but I'm sensing reluctance. And so if there's a point to be made about, if that's a sticking point,
Julie?
So while pay of public employees is public knowledge, I think if there's going to be significant back and forth discussions, similar to a contract negotiation type of discussion about pay rate, I think it would be appropriate to do that in executive session. For the basic protection and privacy of the person that is potentially negotiating their rate of pay.
Would it be, so since no one has seconded the motion that Rich made, is it the amount that we're concerned about, or the backdating? I mean, I'd be fine with making some sort of motion that she get a certain amount of raise, and then if we did want to hash out the exact amount of the raise in executive session, if that was appropriate, I'd be okay with that. It's like I said, I think that she deserves a pay raise of some kind for the additional work that she's doing. And I don't know if the board is concerned about the amount or the concept.
So right now, at this point, we have to decide whether we're gonna go with Rich's motion as it's made, or are we gonna make a motion to adjust her pay rate that we will decide in executive session, and also decide whether or not we're going to back pay her. So where do we stand?
We have to deal with the motion on the floor, so
Right.
that's,
So we either have to deal with Rich's motion to go with
Right.
where he stands or not. So if nobody seconds that, then we have to close that motion and then go on to an adjusted motion, or have Rich amend his motion.
I'm in agreement with the library board. There's 5 of you. You guys made this decision to bring it to the board. You feel good about it. So otherwise there's no sense in even having a board. If we gotta pick your board's decision apart, I'm gonna stand.
Is somebody gonna back Rich's motion to go with Harley's proposal? Okay, so that motion is now dead in the water. Does anybody want to make a different motion?
I'll move that, let's try this. I'll move that we approve a pay raise for the assistant librarian. Amount TBD. Can we make a motion of that? I don't know if that's too vague.
To be determined in executive session
Yeah.
later this evening.
Yes.
Okay, do we have any second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Bob seconds that motion. Is there any more discussion about that motion?
I think we should determine the back pay also at the same time, though. Discuss it all.
That would be a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. That to be determined the amount, the back pay, how far back we date it, and the amount of the raise.
Okay. You all set with that motion and second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll determine that later tonight and let you know.
Thank you.
Any announcements? No. Zoning administrators report, short-term rental.
Good evening. So we had 39 permits issued for 2023. There's just one that's pending for a DRB review on January 24th, which is a variance. And other than that, the only other thing I have for discussion is the last meeting I provided short-term rental registration form and ordinance that was for discussion this evening to see if there's any edits that anybody wants to make before they go to legal for review. Then it would come back to the board for a vote, and then it would go to a hearing. So my question is, does anybody have any edits or discussion regarding the proposal?
From what I reviewed, everything looked quite straightforward and quite clear and very much in line with the state, so I didn't see anything that I felt needed to be changed. Did anybody else?
Yeah, I reviewed it and I thought it looked good.
Yeah, I thought it looked good also. Just, double checking about the penalty with enforcement. And is that the same as we do for our regular zoning violations? Yeah, I thought so. The number sounds familiar for some reason.
It's a standard
Yep,
state.
yep. No, I thought that it seems like, I know when we were framing this, the group that got together, we were talking about making it as simple and straightforward as possible. And it's pretty much just that someone fills in that they're having a short-term rental and how many people will fit in their short-term rental, which is the thing the fire department was most concerned about.
And a contact.
and a contact, so they can be contacted if there's any kind of issue. I think, yeah, it looks nice and simple.
Frank?
Will that be available for the multi-unit structures?
This is just for short-term rental, it doesn't apply,
For any unit?
right?
Do you have a motion then to go to the next step with this?
Yeah, I don't think I need a motion at this point.
Oh, to go to the next step, okay.
Yeah.
So then,
When it comes back from legal, then you'll want us to decide whether we approve it.
Correct.
so nobody has any reasons why it shouldn't go to the next level. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Anything else? We're good. Anybody have any questions for the zoning administrator?
Other than we did receive payment for the issue with the camping trailer. So that's all been resolved, it's closed, it's new owner. So
Okay.
we're all set.
Great. Planning Commission's report.
Yes, the planning commission met on the 28th of December, and we had our public hearing for the updated town plan, which we made a few small revisions on, and then approved to send forward to the next step, which is the select board. I sent it to Kristen, who forwarded it to everyone, and Deb has a copy of it as well. So what needs to happen next with the town plan is tonight the select board needs to adopt a resolution to hold a public hearing. And then tomorrow I can send the warning of the public hearing to Deb, who can get it in the Rutland Herald. I spoke to her today and she said they could probably get it in this Friday, but we might want to say Monday just to pad it for ourselves. The tricky thing here is that we have to hold the public hearing, and then after the public hearing, we have to have a select board meeting at which we approve an updated, whatever we update based on the public hearing. And that has to be the day after. It can't be the same night.
It can't be the same event.
It can't be the same event. It could be for the planning commission, but I checked with Rutland Regional and they said it can't be the same event. And it has to be done before February 2nd. And the hearing has to be 15 days after it is in the Rutland Herald. So my suggestion,
Okay.
my suggestion.
Got it all planned.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I know. My suggestion is that we have the public hearing on the off week from the select board. So that would be the 30th of January. And then sometime later that week, we warn a special, before the 2nd, which will have to be before our next meeting, we warn a special select board meeting that all we do is just approve the town plan. I know that makes 2 extra meetings, but we don't necessarily all have to be in the public hearing.
Right, and we don't all have to be at the public hearing.
No, the public
However,
hearing has to happen.
And the next meeting we could all actually attend virtually.
We could make it an all virtual meeting.
No, you have to have hybrid public meeting.
We do?
Yeah.
Well,
I could come down here and turn
Justin
Zoom
can come
on
down
and
here
you
and
can
turn
all-
Zoom on.
One person has to be here, so if the public
I
wanted
mean-
to attend.
I could show up here.
or I
Okay.
could,
Or
I mean, I
somebody-
live right here.
And the
so-
rest of us could just click on.
Click
or like-
on for however long it takes to approve the town plan.
Right, okay.
We'll discuss it.
All
And
right.
You can amend also.
So,
So the
Let's-
30th for the, might as well make it 7 PM on the 30th for the public hearing. And I will certainly be at that. And any other members of the select board who want to be at the public hearing can certainly be there. And then what do we want to do later that week for our mini
does anybody have any problem with doing it Wednesday night? 7 o'clock?
31st?
Do it Tuesday night and then have the vote Wednesday night?
That's fine with me.
Then it's done and over.
Yep. Okay. So that's the public hearing. I'll get the warning of public hearing drawn up and get that to Deb. And also we'll need to warn the special meeting, but we don't have to warn that in the newspaper, thankfully.
I can, we can coordinate. and
We can
I'll hold a
coordinate.
special meeting for next week.
Excellent. All right. So, in that case, I will move that, that the select board adopt a resolution to hold a public hearing on the town plan on January 30th at 7 PM.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
Can you repeat that?
I move that we adopt a resolution
Frank's asking me.
to hold a public hearing on the town plan on January 30th at 7 PM. Got it? Okay.
Frank, you had a comment?
Yeah, the subsequent select board meeting can amend, because there's public comments coming through, could make amendments and or corrections, and then approve.
Yep, we could. Yep, any amendments we needed to make based on the public hearing, we could make that Wednesday at our special select board meeting.
Okay. All in favor of that meeting? Yes, that public meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, one more thing,
Now you gotta,
thing.
you wanna, make a motion to have a special meeting
Do
on
we
the
need a
third?
motion to have the special meeting?
No, I don't think so. Do you want to? Just to,
Why not? I move that we have a special meeting of the select board on January 31st at 7 PM.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Great, thank you.
All right, so one more thing from the planning commission. I know that, I think it was 2 meetings ago at the select board, I presented the idea of the Housing Resource Navigator program that Rutland Regional Planning Commission is putting together. This is the program where they will help hook people up either who have public land or private land who want to build or rehabilitate housing. And the planning commission talked about this at our last meeting, and we came up with, off the top of our heads, we came up with 3 different properties that, one public being the old, the old site of the burned down Dutchie's store, that might possibly, we might possibly as a town be interested if it could be built into a store with housing above it. Once again, that, looking into that possibility might not be bad. There was also 2 private properties, one of which someone had mentioned they might want to build housing on their property, and another of which is a currently vacant house that the owner might wish to rehabilitate and bring back on the market. So having identified 3 buildings at least, or 3 sites at least, that might benefit from at least talking to a developer, which is kind of what this program would be. It would be kind of hooking up potential developers with people who want development. The Planning Commission would like to go ahead and apply for this program. It is free. It's just Rutland Regional Planning Commission helping us out. And they would assist us in reaching out to the community to find any other people who are private landowners who might want to build something, you know, an extra house on their land or a accessory dwelling unit, or who might have a rundown home that they want to renovate back up so that they can sell it or rent it. So, the Planning Commission contacted Logan at Rutland Regional Planning Commission, and he said that in order to become involved with this program, that we would also need the select board to approve it. And so I am asked the Planning Commission, as the Planning Commission, I'm asking the select board to approve us going ahead with this Housing Resource Navigator program.
I've got a question for you. As far as zoning goes, these folks that have the property, does that still have to be subdivided off in 5-acre lots unless it's already subdivided?
It would have to comply with local zoning bylaws, yeah.
Which that's what we have in this town, correct?
Local zoning bylaws?
Is 5-acre, isn't it the 5-acre,
It
if it's not previously
It depends on,
subdivided?
it depends on what zone you're in. Nancy could answer more clearly.
Yeah, for the most part, everything is 5 acre except in the village here, so
Right.
Mhm.
it would have to be 5 acres.
Yeah.
Or if it's a pre-existing.
Right, right. Mhm. You're not gonna take 100 acres now and subdivide it into 1-acre lots or quarter-acre lots.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 5-acre lots.
What they're primarily looking to do is to build adjacent to the village centers. I mean, the whole goal of both the region and the state is to not get a lot of sprawl, but to have the primary residences be the compact village centers. What is it? Compact village centers surrounded by working rural lands. So, yeah. I do know that one of the properties, it was someone who has a property in West Pawlet who would be interested in building some houses on their lot.
Frank?
The question, of course, becomes, if you're putting a multi-unit and you're renting long-term versus short-term for Airbnb. The public radio had a show on in the monthly income average across the state for a short-term rental, less than 30 days, was about $5,000 a month versus the other. So if we were looking at affordable housing being in, say, West Pawlet, we might want to put some conditions on any development so that we're targeting housing for those who need housing as opposed to an investment opportunity for somebody who wants to make $5,000 a month. Okay.
And to what Frank just said, the survey that we would be filling out for each property that people would be filling out who are interested in it it sort of specifies the type of housing they would be interested in building on their land. Like, would they want to build single-family houses? Would they want to build a multi-unit? Would they want to build something that had like a store and housing along with it? And it also does ask the question, especially for anything built on public land, but for everything, would you want to rent it at the going rate or at a affordable rate, basically? So these are, the things Frank is bringing up are things that could be discussed with the program. Again, none of this is a guarantee that anybody's going to build anything. It's just a hook up developers with people who want to develop.
The reason that the town kept ownership of the Dutchy Store project was the possibility of needing the space to add additional treatment facility. So that doesn't really make it a very viable option, in my opinion, because we are so crunched there, and if we needed to put any kind of sludge storage unit in, we would have to consume some of that space, and I don't know if we could.
Would we have to consume the space that's already got that footprint on it?
It's so
Yeah.
vague right now that I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to do something that would restrict us,
Right.
so.
Because I know that I have heard from Marty Kravitz, who has spoken, who knows, evidently he has contacted me and has plans that he used to do for that property, and knows a developer who might be interested in that property. I don't know to what extent a developer looking at the property would be a bad thing if it turns out that we're like, well, you have to hold off until we find out if we need to move this sludge tank here.
Right. Frank?
Along those lines also, is that one of the unsubstantiated rumors, but from a reliable source, that's a good one, stipulated that there might have been the footprint of that building may encroach on Ray's building, Ray's lot. And a Folger told me this, okay? And so that's going to have to get straightened out at some point in time anyways.
Yeah.
So there's no survey that I know of that would.
Maybe this program could help us survey it. I don't
Yeah.
know. But my thought is, even if we don't do that property, because there are questions about it, there are at least 2 other properties that we thought of, just the planning commission
Right.
thought of, that people
So it could
own.
spark public interest.
Yeah, it could spark public interest, and
Okay.
anybody who,
We need a motion
Yeah.
to move forward with this?
Let me-
Yeah.
Yes?
we do need a motion to
The
move.
West Pawlet Planning Group had that part of the lot, the Egg Street side of the lot, okay, directly behind Ray's building, essentially with moving another building in or having a community center building type thing built there that would be used as a store or a community gathering or whatever.
Just not quite on that same
No,
footprint.
but, yeah, where the parking
Yeah.
lot is.
Okay.
Okay, so that means,
And the other question is the fire department is potentially looking, has mentioned during this meeting that they would like to relocate as well, so they might locate up by the slate quarries, who knows? And then you have that other, the firehouse building, which would be apparently unused at that point in time, the current one. So there's a bunch of pieces to move around there.
Future. So, do you want to make a
yeah,
motion?
I'll move that we authorize the planning commission to work with Rutland Regional Planning Commission on the Housing Resource Navigator Program.
Do I have a second on that motion? Bob seconded it. Any more discussion on this motion to how the planning commission work with the Rutland Regional on the housing resource manager?
Navigator.
Navigator program, okay.
So, you can help me to understand this. The private, so this is gonna be helping the folks that own the property already. It's not property that the town owns that we wanna develop.
We could have them
Right.
look at the property the town owns that we want to develop.
So this is just to help folks that already own property, correct?
Yes, it's to help it's to help housing get made. And it's kind of not really caring a lot about who owns the property on which the housing is happening. And
So it's just relieving the private sector from having to go through these steps. We're gonna go through these steps for the folks that already own the property. Is that right?
yeah, the folks who own the
We're
property.
gonna lead them to the water,
would-
basically, right? That's,
Well, Rutland Regional Planning Commission would lead them to the water. Yeah, basically. They would help identify people who have property that might want to build housing, and they would hook them up with developers who are interested in building housing. Now, I'm assuming that the person who wants to build the housing is still going to have to go through a whole process of, getting whatever permits or whatever they need, but the Regional Planning Commission might be able to help them out with this. This is only during the year 2024. So they're hoping to just, for 1 year, hook people up with housing developers. My hope is that, I know that there are a number of and they also mentioned vacant buildings, and I'm thinking about the number of vacant buildings that I know that exist, and if there was some way to rehab some of those so people could live in them. I just keep thinking about how the school constantly has trouble finding places for school teachers to live, and about how we've been looking for, road crew and road foremen, and they have trouble looking for places to live. So my impulse here is, kind of throw everything at the wall in the hopes of there being more places for people to live locally who have jobs waiting for them.
Frank?
To Rich's question as well, it does a good answer, just because is that public land would be subject to select board decision and conditions set on the use of that land. So, which you can do in a contract negotiation, you can set what you want, what you accept and what you won't. The private land, however, if that's developed, would be entirely up to the individual who owns the land. And the Rutland Regional would be basically supplying them with education and potentially opportunity, maybe assistance on a subdivision there, but that would also apply to our unified bylaws. The only thing we don't have in the unified bylaws, which we're about ready to get on is that West Pawlet has been considered by the state wanted to have a while ago towns that have affordable housing areas, which West Pawlet is. And so could hypothetically, we'd have to cover that through Rutland Regional, which this process would be part of, to see how we can actually create a development direction towards affordable housing in West Pawlet. But this would be limited only to West Pawlet. it's the entire town, correct?
Yeah, it would be the entire town. Like I said, I think that the Regional Planning Commission wants to prioritize people building in areas that are already a little more dense rather than creating sprawl in rural working lands. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't approve somebody building something along Highway 30 or 133.
So we might even be able to do surveys, put out a survey.
Yeah, I'm not
for
sure.
town meeting.
Okay, so right now, we're at a point where we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any more discussion?
Well, I just wanted to ask about your question, Rich. Are you like feeling like it's not fair for the Regional Planning Commission to help out private landowners?
I don't know. I don't know if it's, we're in a position to do that. I think the private landowners should be able to seek out their own help. I don't think that we need to be meddling in that.
I agree. I think if they own property, they're probably smart enough to be able to go through this process themselves. The first thing they're gonna have to do is ask the zone administrator whether they can do it at all, Find out what they're zoned in, whether they can actually do it,
Julie?
and if they can afford to do it.
So my thought process on that, my question on this, it doesn't sound to me like this is mandating any private landowner do anything.
Oh,
It
no.
is simply providing
Opportunity.
an opportunity for landowners who have a desire to come forward to an entity that has experience, Rutland Regional Planning Commission, facilitating between these private owners and these contractors.
Yeah.
And helping them perhaps navigate the sometimes tricky environment of zoning regulations, for example.
Yeah.
It's not forcing or meddling, like people would have to actively come and ask for this assistance.
Yeah, and and it's also possible that, that the planning commission might reach out to people who we know own vacant properties and see if they intend to do anything with that vacant property. Sometimes it's because an owner is quite elderly and doesn't have the oomph to work on rehabilitating their property. They might need some help. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Sometimes it's that the property owner is out of state or in some sort of financial distress and doesn't really, so just sort of owns a property, pays taxes on it, and it stands there vacant. If there was a way to hook that up with someone who wanted to rehabilitate the property, then the owner could either offload it and we could get a new neighbor, or they could rent it and have money in their, in their pocket.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So we had two in favor, one opposed, and one said nothing, so I guess it's carried.
All right, I will let the planning commission know. Thank you. That's it for my planning commission report.
Road foreman's report?
So the highway department addressed the mud hole on Rupert Mountain Road with 2 loads of gravel and a grader. Maintenance repairs happened on the 2013 Mack, the coolant tubes, and we got the international loaner, and that was checked and serviced. They built carts for the plow wings for safe installation and removal of the wings. Hauled gravel for summer projects. In the process of marking dead trees for removal by professionals, which we will need to get quotes for. They installed more signs and are asking for approval to mark the school zone and to reduce the speed limit in the school zone to 30 miles per hour around the school. Their extra request as well is to change the winter hours from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So there's 2 requests, and then once we get through that, there was another document that was sent around earlier this afternoon as well. So I think the idea for the shift in the winter hours, from what my understanding is that they're trying to get in a little bit earlier anyway. So the idea of shifting the hours to be a little bit earlier will help to prevent the early day overtime and just give them an opportunity to get an earlier jump on the day, especially with planning for school closures and delays and things like that.
Also, they're switching it, so right now they start at 7 and they want to start at 6.
Yes.
That makes sense. I heard it the other way around. I thought, that's confusing. Okay, that makes sense.
No, yeah. They
Makes good
currently
sense.
start at 7 a.m. and at 3 p.m. They'd like to start at 6 a.m. and have their end time be 2 p.m.
That sounds
So the school zone, we can do that because it's our road, correct? Okay. So does somebody want to make a motion that we can adjust that?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And, oh no, there was 2, and I forgot it already.
The hours, winter hours.
Hours. Motion?
I'll make that motion that we switch from 7 to 3 to 6 to 2 to 10.
Okay.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. And then the next thing, multitasking. The next thing was that Colby, I'm just gonna finish what I'm doing before I go. All right, so Colby sent out an email, which I forwarded along to everybody else, offering the suggestion of a new employment opportunity potentially for the structure of the highway department. I think that ultimately this discussion might need to be continued at a later date, but I just wanted to bring it up tonight. The idea is the suggestion of hiring a planning coordinator for the town of Pawlet is what his idea was. My understanding is that this could be a full-time position for the entire town, but also with a lot of help and focus on what's going on in the highway department. So everybody has been sent this. It was just sent earlier today. So it's robust. I think that based on what I read through, it's a lot of overlap with with some other discussions that the board has had.
Yes, I
So-
thought so too.
It's nice to see that there's some common thinking around town. But so I just wanted to make sure that that got brought up this
I
evening.
didn't have a chance to look out over it, but if we could address it, we could get a chance to review it and kind of think about it and address it at the next meeting during the highway report would be great.
Okay.
Is there anything else under the road foreman's report?
I called ATG today to see when we're gonna be getting that new truck and didn't hear back from them, but, I mean, it's pushed out into, I'm guessing, end of March, April.
That's the story we told the insurance company, so. I think, did she come back with one more question or something?
Not that I saw.
Didn't get a chance to finish it up.
You had replied saying that it was estimated that the truck's going to be coming mid-April. And then there was one more saying that it needed to be added.
Yeah, she had to add it, she had to add it on the policy and
It can be
then,
added temporarily.
yeah.
Yeah, and we needed to send, what was it? We needed to send
Awesome.
the document. Let me find that. It was right in here. Yeah, the end of that. They need the borrow agreement that we have with the Craig Allen Advantage Truck Group. We need to send that to them, to the
Okay.
insurance.
Is that something, Kristen, you can help us square away? Okay, super, thank you. Anything else under the road foreman's report? Assessors, we have errors and omissions.
Yes. Did everybody see that?
I think we did.
There must be a document here signed, right?
I don't know if they left one.
Did they email it?
It was emailed. Let's see. So
Usually there's a document, right, that goes with that, or?
They didn't give me anything.
they didn't leave a copy of it. I can print it right now.
I don't think they did. If they did, I would have flipped it in the orange folder. With orange.
Just hold tight one sec.
Okay, did everybody look that over? The errors and omission sheet that came through?
No.
You want a copy? Just get that one.
Yeah.
I believe that they were forced to put, like, current use had kept them as separate parcels because at one point they weren't all contiguous, and then after a purchase of one piece, it became contiguous. And so by Vermont law, all contiguous parcels have to go onto like one tax bill. And so, but current use hadn't, and so we hadn't, and then current use was like, oh, hey, yes, we will. And so then they,
Wanted to see this?
that's what happened.
It really has no effect on dollars and cents or anything like that.
No, I don't know.
Not, it's our part, okay.
It's will, but it's standard to combine the
Just-
lots. At a different rate.
So do we need a motion to sign the errors and
Yes.
omissions report? All right, I move that we sign the errors and omissions report.
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Town clerk's memo.
There's one other thing, sorry. So also in that email, which was sent to everybody, there was an attachment for the request for proposals for a townwide reappraisal for the 2026 grand list, and that was sent out just after Christmas.
Okay. Excellent. Okay.
Make it all line, I guess.
Town clerk's memo, we need a motion for tobacco license for Apollo Industries.
I'll make that motion.
Bob will make that motion. Have a second?
I'll second that.
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You're all set. Town offices will be closed on 1/15 in observance of Martin Luther King. Hoping to have the town meeting warning signed on the 23rd. Articles, petitions are due by 1/18. Nominating petitions and consent of candidate forms are due by 1/29. 2 notices from A&R. And there will be an Act 250 hearing here on February the 6th at 5 o'clock, it says on this. What, earlier you said 4, right?
I show, Deb had told me 4, and then it said on the documentation 5 was a site visit, but we'll get clarification on exactly what time.
Okay. There will be a potential that this,
The actual notice from Act 250 says 5 o'clock at the property site. And our understanding is they wanted to come here first, so.
can be held in the auditorium. It was intended to avoid a select board meeting that night, but this was the best day for him, so. All right, so we'll just keep on top.
I did confirm with her today that they would have their meeting in the auditorium.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deb.
At what time, Deb?
Well, she's gonna get here about 4:30 to get prepared, and then they're gonna do the site visit, and then they'll have the meeting. But I think, if you have it right in front of you, I think that the hearing, I'm not sure. I'd have to find out from the email. I thought that the hearing started at 5, but maybe they meet at the site at 5 and then they come back. And there's no predicting how long you're gonna be on a site for a site visit, so I think it just starts at 5, and then whenever they get back to the town hall, that's when the hearing will start. But if you need any further information, I can reach out to her tomorrow and get some more particulars. Nancy, do you have the notice in your possession right now?
I don't, but I just looked at it and it does say site at 5 PM.
Okay.
What site is that?
It's on the notice.
What's that?
I think it's on the notice.
What site is that?
I forget that, we can find it on the website. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Is there anything else you wanted to add tonight, Deb?
I don't think so. Reports are coming in for the town report. Petitions are starting to come in, so it's moving along. But I would like to try to shoot for the 23rd, getting the warning signed, because a few days after that is the first day that we can post it.
Okay.
I have a question for Deb.
Yeah.
Deb, what's the date for the reports? That you'd like to have the reports?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to the end of the month. I
Okay.
usually like to have them, by the 3rd week of January, but usually I try to get the town report to the printer in the first week or week and a half of February.
Okay.
So I would say by no later than the end of January would be great.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions for Deb? Thank you for joining us tonight, Deb. Have a good evening.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for reading the memo for me.
So treasurer's memo.
3 warrants, payroll is $11,886.78, accounts payable $34,060.23. Of that, general fund monies is $25,687.64, highway $18,542.47, wastewater $1,716.90. I did reach out to the Vermont Treasurer's Office regarding the municipal equipment loan. They usually meet at the end of December. They're late meeting this year. They did not have an answer on our application. Berkshire did reach out to ATG and get the VIN number, so they are ready to close. But they did say that they can keep our application open, but only until early February. So maybe we can pump brakes until next meeting and check back in on our status on the Vermont Municipal Equipment Loan application. And then that would still give us time to attend to a closing if we needed to with Berkshire. Berkshire Wealth Management, I met with Berkshire, and I sent you out an email, but basically, the email had, T-bill rates, and that was what she was recommending. CDs didn't really look more promising than T-bills at this time. That's what we invested in. The last time we put our money in investments, we invested in treasury bills of varying terms. Currently, the better rates are the shorter terms. And so, but the benefit of going into a longer term is the idea that perhaps rates will change and we would be better off having money tied up for a longer period of time at this right now lower rate, which would in turn be higher than future rates. So basically their recommendation was a combination of keeping some money in like a 1-year T-bill, some of our money in a 1-year T-bill and others in shorter terms. So we'll need to make a decision on that, and I have thoughts on that. We also need to make a decision on the appropriations tonight so that the warning can be ready for signing at the next meeting. And there's also the management representation letter for the audit. I sent you all the draft audit and the audit adjustments. I've gone through it and agree with all of the figures. So I'm recommending that we sign that tonight.
Okay. How does the board feel about signing the audit?
Julie recommends it. I think we should sign it.
No big
I
red.
guess that's a motion.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 3 warrants. Warrant 24033, 24035, and 24036.
I'll second that.
Here's your,
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Carried. Appropriation,
Yeah, so in last year, we had an appropriation to the equipment fund of 25,000, the capital budget fund 17,000, wastewater 15, and reappraisal 8. And just real quick, I did reach out to VLCT on the capital fund, and their recommendation is that we would actually be able to just ask the voters to change the purpose and name of the fund, and then we wouldn't have to do anything to move any money, and we would be able to put any future monies into a fund that is just called capital projects, and then we could use it for new construction and maintenance of
I like that.
of infrastructure.
Okay.
So I'm just getting a confirmation on exactly what that language would be, so I'll have that for you at the next meeting to be a part of warning. I'll get it to Deb and have it be part of the warning,
okay.
if everyone's comfortable with that.
For what?
So the idea is, right now, we have a
Right.
capital budget.
Right, so we can,
And it's for the maintenance of
Right.
town-owned buildings. And we would like to ask the voters to change the name and purpose of the fund
okay,
to capital projects, and it would be for the construction and maintenance of town infrastructure.
okay.
It just broadens
Right.
what we can actually spend the money on.
So we have to ask the voters to do that?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was,
And
Okay, thank you.
once we ask the voters to do that, we can then put into that fund any gifts that we've received that are toward building buildings, and any future appropriations can go into that then.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we need to make a decision on tonight is the amounts, so that can be written up by Deb to go in the warning. So, the reappraisal we had calculated with Lisa should be 8,000 in order to get us through, so when it happens. She hasn't asked me to change that.
okay.
Are you comfortable keeping that at 8,000?
Yeah, I'm fine
That's
with
what,
that.
That's what we,
we were on track there, so,
Well, the wastewater plant was 15. I don't know if you want to adjust that. We've been using pretty much all of it, but it is what it is.
I almost feel like we might want to raise that due to inflation. I mean, it's been 15 for some years that we've put toward it, and it still keeps going up.
I think we probably should maybe go to 20 on that.
Yeah, I'm feeling like we maybe need to go to 20 on that.
How does the rest of you feel?
You think that's necessary?
Well, right now, we don't have any cushion, really. We just are kind of skating by and using, in theory, this was to put aside to have like a capital budget for the wastewater and be able to address any future problems without having to borrow. And we don't really have that. We've just been using it to keep the rate reasonable.
And the rate's still not reasonable, honestly.
And there's just a lot of operations and maintenance that
Yeah.
seem to not go away.
Yeah, I would think that that's necessary then.
So 20.
20 for that.
Frank?
I just want to bring up that the mini grant was approved. and-
No, okay, thank you.
and it's
We gotta stay
$4,000
focused, Frank.
$4,000 check.
What's the next one?
Capital budget, which would be then the capital projects, hopefully, has traditionally been 17,000.
Right,
Do you want to keep it 17,000?
I mean, I feel like if it's moving toward us building buildings as well, we should probably raise that and see how what the voters think of it. I don't know how much too, though.
we could push that, maybe we need to push that one to 22.
This was to go towards buildings?
Yeah, this is to, so not just toward, it was 17 when we had it going just toward maintenance. But if it's going toward buildings and we're thinking of wanting to do a garage soon and maybe break some ground on that, we might want to raise that.
Let the voters decide.
Yeah. I mean, I would be fine with making it, since it's going with the idea about this garage, I don't know at what point the voters would say, no, we don't want to do that, but this is the whole idea, we put it to the voters.
Right, I think it seems reasonable that we go a little bit more on that.
Yeah.
How much more would you think? I mean, I'm kind of looking at Rich and Perry, because you know a little bit more about the town garage sort of situation.
Well, for me, if we're looking future for town garage, I would go 25 with it.
Yeah?
I don't think the voters would have an issue with that if it was explained to them that it's not all gonna go there, because we're gonna have to do maintenance and whatever, but I think that,
It has to go into a pot in case we
Yeah.
have emergencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also painting and stuff like that we paid for years that comes out of that pot, and
Yeah,
everything is
yeah.
just gone,
yeah,
and then, but the best benefit is that we can use it for new buildings too, not just,
And I wanna use the term infrastructure, actually, cause I wanna be able to, like, we're doing a sidewalk project, and we wanna take the ARPA funds and put it into that. As we've discussed, so if we just had infrastructure, I think it would open.
Capital
doors to other-
infrastructure?
Yeah.
So buildings, sidewalks, things.
projects.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
So
I-
25.
Are we okay with 25 then?
I think so. There's gonna be some sticker shock.
Yeah, but I mean, again, if the voters vote it down, we come back to them with a different number.
Well, I mean with the new
Oh,
new
with the
building.
building. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
look what we
definitely.
faced with the sidewalks, you know, I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's going up.
And then the last one is the equipment fund, which we have traditionally been 25,000.
What fund was that?
Equipment.
fun.
Used to
I
be
hate
able to buy
say it,
more than just,
I've always been a big advocate for going more on that in the last few years.
Especially-
It's just because we don't cover the cost of replacement with what we're putting out
the
there.
next truck that we buy, that money won't even pay for the upfit in 5 years. And we need a new truck in 5 years, and that, before we've bought a
Not to
lot of.
mention any of the other equipment.
That's right.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. We've been able to pay the outfit and buy other equipment and stuff like that too out of it. That ain't happening, so.
One of the biggest challenges we're facing now with this newer equipment, the old stuff, you could get away with running it, you know, fix a linkage, fix whatever the case may be. But now we're chasing all these electrical issues and these codes. I mean, they're just driving us bananas. It's a challenge. So it'd be nice to try and get ahead so we could get rid of them before we faced all these issues.
Right.
Because these trucks, they should all be in the shop, you know, right now. We'll get them back out of the shop 2 days later, bunch of issues, you know, all electrical issues. Whether it be emissions or ABS or just constantly. So I think that unfortunately is gonna have to go up significantly.
What do you guys think for a number?
I think that 35 would still be light, but we've got to start somewhere.
250,000 over 5 years, you would want it to be 40.
You'd want it 40?
You want at least.
And that's just.
That's just for a plow truck, not
Yeah, we're not
to
talking
upgrade a loader
anything else
or a backhoe or anything like that.
There is a law of sticker shock. I don't know if you want, because we have multiple gifts that will be in the capital budget fund. If you, a thought that I have is to actually leave that alone, take that 8,000, put it on the equipment fund this year, and then next year, you can adjust both of them, and it won't be a wham, wham, wham on everybody.
Yeah, with the bridge and the guardrails and,
It's a lot.
yes, it is.
The bridge is taking the paving money, correct? I mean, that's already
Is that what
there.
we're doing?
It's some of
That's-
that in this, some from what we have left over in this year.
The
But there's
surplus.
still money in the budget next year. There's still a cost in the budget next year.
Above what we'll have for paving?
Yeah, because because next year you're keeping paving for paving.
I thought we had discussed we were gonna use that money for the bridge so that we didn't
We're
have
gonna use
to.
what's left over this year, and then you said that next year there will be paving projects, and so.
If we get the grant.
You said that you thought there was going to be paving projects and we probably weren't gonna get a grant to cover it.
No, because we wouldn't pave if we didn't get the grant, because we'd be doing patchwork. We'd be paving from here to Mac's store on a mile stretch of road
Okay.
every year.
I definitely recall asking if we thought we were gonna get a paving grant and being told no. I definitely recall asking if we thought we were going to do a paving.
We didn't get a
project.
paving grant this year because we got it for the bridge.
I think that we can assume that our previous discussion about the budget, that we did work out this stuff at that time, and that we really only have to deal with the appropriations right now. I'd be fine with taking Julie's suggestion of leaving capital where it is right now and raising equipment instead. And then maybe next year raising capital to get a bit more money for the town garage. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I agree that if we raise the appropriations we're asking for all of our funds in 1 year, it does put a
2 or 3
burden on
cents,
people.
aren't we? So what do we wanna do that? Go with Julie's suggestion to leave the capital one and raise the equipment one?
I've got a suggestion.
What's that?
I would rather take and put the money in the equipment fund and not in the fund for the building.
Okay.
Because we've received a bunch of money for the building already. So if we're gonna leave one light, I would suggest leaving the infrastructures one light and put it in the equipment fund.
That's what Julie suggested.
That's what you
All three
said,
just
all right.
the same thing. It's good.
Oh, I didn't
Okay,
even-
so how much were we thinking of raising equipment by? Did you have a suggestion, Julie?
Well, so my suggestion, since
What's the
you wanted
8,000?
to raise the capital 8,000, was to just to skip that and raise the equipment 8,000 this year.
That would
So
be
for the
33?
33, and then in future years, you can raise the equipment even more.
And put a little more in capital?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, just so I can make sure I'm understanding this, capital infrastructure was at 20.
It's at 17 now.
It was at 17.
It was at 17 and.
So we can leave it at 17. So I think what I've got here from what I've written down would be appraisal 8,000, wastewater 20, capital 17, and equipment 33.
We gotta meet, we gotta go into executive session soon.
Does that work for this year?
Yep.
Okay. And then the last thing that I need from you is deciding on how we want to restructure our investments. The investments that we have that are still in place until January of '25 is the original donation that we received, that was about 99,000. About 51,000 in the reappraisal fund, about 49 in the landfill fund. Those are good until January 25. We don't need to talk about them. The equipment fund the term ended in July, and it has been sitting in their sweep account, which is performing pretty well. We could leave it there, or we could put it in a 2-month T-bill. 2-month T-bills are comparable to the sweep account, but the sweep account changes daily, and this would sort of lock us into a 5.37% rate, and that would get us to then, so January to February to March.
Do we have to do that tonight or not? Because I didn't get it, that came in late, I didn't get it to look any of those numbers over, so.
The numbers aren't gonna be the same if we don't
If we don't do it
do it
tonight,
tonight.
so.
So I'll just tell you really quickly, my thoughts are with the equipment fund we're going to be needing that money. There is not really a penalty, it's just a reduction in the amount of money that you actually make, because it is structured to give you this percentage if you have the money in this time. If you take it out early, you just simply don't earn that high of a percentage.
And we think, so the equipment fund would be for the truck.
For the
And
truck.
we are gonna close on the truck, we think in
Right.
April, is when we're gonna
Right.
get the truck?
Maybe.
Maybe? So if we put it in 2 months, it wouldn't matter. We're not gonna have it in like March, right?
Right.
The ARPA, we have 100K of ARPA invested. I recommend keeping that invested and doing, like maybe a 6 month, because we're not gonna build the sidewalks and we have
Yeah.
at least that much for sidewalks. So if everyone's okay with that, that's my recommendation. Capital maintenance, we have 56,000 invested right now that is, separate from the donated amount. That potentially, we could really put in, at least like in the 1-year term, because we have a big chunk that's coming in January of '25, and then we have this other big chunk that we have to decide what to do with.
And so if that 56,000, if we did need some of it for like some big capital maintenance thing that came up, we could just take it out and there wouldn't really be a penalty.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like 6 months term on that, or what did I say, 1 year on that? I said 1 year on that. And then the new donation, which is, about 99,000 again. We could keep that in one and it would come out the same time as the last one. So it would come to us in January of '25, and we could always, once it comes due, we can always look at rates and decide if we want to do some short-term investing at that time.
I know last time you were saying maybe 1 year on that would be better than 2, and that sounds like what Julie is saying.
That's what the rates are saying
Yeah,
right now.
that's what the rates are saying. Okay, good.
Is everyone okay with those numbers?
I'm good with them.
Okay, then I'm done. That's it, thank you.
Julie's our number person.
Emergency management?
Hello, gentlemen, lady. This month's December's report. So 3 of our shelter staff completed the Red Cross Shelter Fundamentals Training and Shelter Management courses up in Castleton. It's 5 hours of training given by the American Red Cross. We had 3 people attend. We're pretty happy about that. So they learned a lot about details of how to run a shelter, how to manage it, and so on. We plan to conduct a shelter drill during the first quarter of 2024. So with the addition of Jackie Becker to the team, our emergency management team, she's reinvigorated our shelter staff. So we're moving along with that. So that's really helpful. And then other than that, I attended 2 meetings virtually. One was a Homeland Security Working Group meeting. This is a meeting of people that are on this meeting. Generally, what we do is we look at grants, federal grants, and rate the grants and vote on what grants get the money and which grants. There's always more grant requests than there is money. So I do that maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Another meeting that I attend quarterly, which I attended in December, was the FBI Albany WMD working group meeting. We meet quarterly, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person. As emergency management director, I'm invited to attend that. The hazard mitigation plan has been submitted to the Vermont Emergency Management. It's all completed. The grant will cover all our costs. The grant that we got for that will cover all the costs. It will cover the consultant, which is primarily what the cost was for the consultant. That'll be all taken care of. So that'll be done. There may be some revisions that were submitted to Vermont Emergency Management. They may come back with a couple of changes, but the consultant will handle that. So we're all squared away with that. So any questions?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Health officer. We gotta roll as fast as we can. We need to go into executive session at 8:30, so.
I was gonna say Merrill's.
Jennifer, if you can give me a quick,
Yeah, I can be quick.
Thank you.
As far as activity, Bob and I investigated a complaint of possible improper disposal of food waste, possibly attracting rats. We didn't find anything that is resolved. If you would like, I can go over the new rental inspection thing at the next meeting.
that would be better, please, so that we can keep this meeting rolling. Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That would be better if we could save it till the next meeting, so we can keep this going tonight.
I'll do that, that's fine.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So we got a request for the facilities, the town highway department existing property from the fire department. So everybody have a chance to read that letter?
I did have a chance to read it.
Okay.
And I knew that was something that they were hoping for. I forget if they'd brought it up to us before, that if we ended up doing a new town garage, that the old town garage property would be one they'd be interested in for a firehouse.
So Bob and I had talked a little bit, and what we'd like to do is to come up with some kind of direction so that when, in the event that we leave that area, that we can transfer the property to the fire department so that they can put a new fire station there. But if we can just get all the framework in place so that so we don't have to think about it or nobody has to go through, we can already establish that once we vacate that property, we can turn it over to the fire department. So unfortunately, I don't know how quite to do that yet, but we got the ball going and stuff, so go ahead.
Yeah, we have, of course, we have some time to do that. We just wanted to make sure that we got on the radar screen of the select board. It seems to be really the only property that's available to us within a reasonable location of the current firehouse. So that's would really work out well for us, that property. And the property's certainly large enough for us to build a building there. We have to come up with some kind of grant to get money for a building, but grants for buildings usually are not conveyed unless you own property, unless you have property. So once a property transfer occurs, whenever the town decides to vacate that, and if the property gets transferred to us, then we'll be able to get grants to build a new firehouse.
Okay, so we'll keep that all, try and figure out the right way to progressively transfer this property. The new town garage is something that we're starting to seriously consider due to the donations that we've had, and we want to start working on that, but.
We might need to talk about that later since we.
Yeah, just quickly, a couple of thoughts. I've had a few conversations and, with folks or towns that have built garages just recently. And, I mean, with the working board, I think it's necessary to, put a committee together to start putting this whole thing together. First of all, we got to decide exactly where we want it. Do we, and then we've got to, there's just a lot that needs to be followed through with from week to week. So I don't know how we plan to go about doing that, but I think it would be a good idea to get a committee put together to pull this whole thing together. I mean, we can't do it. We don't have the time to do that.
Right.
And research all avenues to make sure that we're getting, the biggest bang for our buck.
Right.
And I think that last time we discussed this, you mentioned that part of this will be to touch base with the state, right, and see if they were still interested in building something in this area. There's lots of things to look through.
Okay, so is there a school board report tonight? Okay. Is there any old or unfinished business? Is there any new business?
Just two quick things. There's,
Uh-huh.
emails came through. There are two applications that came through from the Cannabis Control Board that are waiting for approval, and so they'll be coming down the pipe for the local commission to approve. So I'll forward those to you if I haven't already, but
Okay.
something will come up.
And public comment. Frank?
We got the $4,000 coming, we just have to make a report on what's spent, not generate the invoices. So that will Julie be landing in her lap pretty soon. And if you do have a committee getting together and it's more than 2 people, you have to call special meetings essentially.
Right.
Okay. To be up.
Go ahead.
Aaron Levine, thank you, Chair. I just had a quick comment regarding the proposed increase in the library assistants wages. I just wanted to make the comment that just because the library board makes a recommendation doesn't mean it's necessary to get one. And that, particularly when you consider the questionable judgment of the current library board. Further, I'd ask that the select board have a job description handy when you evaluate this increase, to truly evaluate this increase. The library director, what the library director's responsibilities are. Because what's been described in these meetings, the select board meeting, the library, board of trustees meetings, for the increase in the library assistant's duties does not even match 50%, in my opinion, of what the library director was responsible for. And I think the board would see that if they have a job description handy when they consider that increase.
Thank you. Anybody else? Let's make a motion.
Make a motion to go into executive session. I'll second that.
To discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body.
And for employee labor.
And for labor relations agreements with employees.